Hello, and thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to be talking about the lookup exact function. Now, the lookup exact function isn't a function in Excel. It's actually going to be two functions. It's going to be the traditional lookup function, lookup by vectors, and it's going to be the exact function. So to get started, let's go ahead and look over at our data set. Here we have some numbers which are in ascending order, and then we have some letters, and then we have a random smattering of names. The benefit of the lookup exact function that we're going to make is that it's going to have the precision of VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP, but it's going to have the flexibility of our traditional lookup function. So to get started, what we want to do is we're going to start with our lookup function. So we're going to go equals lookup. Now, the first thing we're going to do is our lookup values, which we're going to select up here. I'm going to hit F4 to make that absolute. The next thing is we want to do our lookup vector. We're going to select this column of numbers over here. It could be a column, it could be a row. The most important thing is that for a traditional lookup function is it has to be in ascending order. The lookup vector has to be in ascending order. And then we're going to have our return vector, which we're going to go ahead and select the names over here. Here we go. There we go. Okay, so we have a lookup value of 3. We go down to 3. We see that it pulls up Stan. Here we have Stan's name. Now, let's briefly go over the exact function. So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to hit exact. And let me tell you what this little note next to it says. It says, the exact function checks whether or not two strings, two values, are exactly the same. And it'll either return a true or false value. Now, it actually compares like these two values, in this case, are two lowercase q's. It is case sensitive. So we're going to go ahead and select the first value here. And our second value is going to be the one next to it. There we go. Now, right now, it's true. But if I change the case of one of these, it's now false because these two are not exactly the same. Obviously, if I change the letter of one of these, the actual letter value, it's going to come back false. So the way we use this is we actually kind of take this value and we look at it this way. We assume that true equals 1 and false equals 0. So down here we have an equation that we're going to work with, and it's going to be 1 divided by our exact formula. So we're going to take this value and we're going to put it under 1. So here it's going to look like this. It's going to be equals 1 divided by, then we're going to have our exact function, the same one that we had above, and we're going to use the same values as before. There we go. Okay, so 1 divided by true is going to be 1. Now watch what happens whenever I change this. We end up with a division by 0 error. So let's go ahead and incorporate this into our lookup function. So we're going to go up here. We're going to say equals lookup, just like we did before. And we're going to say 1. Our lookup value is going to be the number 1. And the lookup vector is actually going to be an equation or a formula, as you can see right here. So we're going to say 1 divided by exact. Now this is where we put our lookup value, the value that we actually want to find, this 3 right here. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to select 3. Now the next portion, the next argument in this exact function, we're going to put the range, the lookup vector where we want it to search. This number column over here. So I'm going to select the numbers over here. That's where it's going to search for the value that it's looking up. Okay, we're going to close that. Then we just have our return vector, which is, or a results vector, which is the value we want it to return. Again, we're going to select the names. Here we go. All right. Everything worked, and we end up with the same names. Now, the thing about the traditional lookup function is that it is going to look up a value and is going to find a value that is less than or equal to. Remember, because we have this in ascending order. So if I were to put an 18 in here, notice our max value is 17. So it should return back 17. It should actually go to this less than or equal to, which is going to be 17 and Kenneth. Whereas our lookup exact function only looks for that exact value. So here I'm going to type in 18. The lookup function returns our name, whereas the lookup exact returns an error message. Okay. Same thing if I were to pick a value between 4 and 5. If I say 4, same value, but if I do 4.5, the lookup function finds a value that is less than or equal to and returns that, whereas the lookup function requires something exact. Now, let's say here our minimum value that we're looking up is 1. So I'm going to try putting in 0. Let's see what happens. Both of them come back an error message because they have the same error, which is that this value is not within a range and there is no other value that is less than or equal to this. Now, those are just some of the limitations of the lookup exact function. The benefits are this, is with just the lookup function, these values, the lookup vector, has to be in ascending order. But I can go ahead and take these values and we're going to move them around. I'm just going to go here to sort, and I'm going to sort by the letters. So here we go. We're going to sort by letters, A to Z. There we go. Not all the letters are included, but they are in alphabetical order. If you notice, I only have 17 items in my data set. So here we go. Now, notice the numbers here, the lookup vector. They're all out of order. And this messes up our lookup function, our traditional lookup function. However, our lookup exact function has no problems with this. I can put in any value and it'll be fine. Okay, and it'll come back accurate. So let's see, 5. We have Vera. Notice our lookup function is not working. Another thing to keep in mind is that we're currently looking up numbers, but if I were to move the lookup vector over to letters, this would work as well. It would work for the traditional lookup function, provided that they were in ascending order from least to greatest, but it wouldn't matter for the lookup exact function. So we're going to go ahead and do that real quick. So I'm going to go here, and I'm just going to go ahead and speed ahead and do this for y'all. Okay, so I've gone ahead and changed our functions. What I've done is I've moved our lookup vector. It's looking for this value, and it's looking in the letters column. Fortunately for us, the letters are already in ascending order, and I have a return value, which obviously seems to be the names. So here's what I want you to keep in mind. Now, here we have a capital E, but if I go ahead and I put the lowercase value in, the lookup function works fine, the traditional one, but the lookup exact function does not because the two values are not exactly the same. However, if I go ahead and I switch this back to a capital E, things go back to normal and it works. Now here, if you look over in our data set, we have a gap between A and D. So B and C are missing. So let's see, if I go ahead and I put in a capital C here, the lookup function goes to a value that is less than or equal to, in this case, which is A. Keeping the same lookup vector, I'm going to go ahead and sort my data again numerically back to that numbers column. I'm going to go up here to sort. I'm going to switch. I'm going to tell it to sort by numbers. Okay. Now all of my values, or all of my letter values, are jumbled up. And I'm going to use a value that actually exists. We're going to say W. Okay. Now if you notice, the traditional lookup value, if we go to W right here, all right, the actual value is Peggy, which lookup exact, that's the value that it returns. Whereas this value over here, it pulls back Kenneth, which is incorrect. So one of the advantages of the lookup exact function is that it is not going to pull a false return, or it'll show either no return or the correct return, but it will not show a false return. So that's something to keep in mind, and one way you can assure that you do get your proper data that you're looking for. So that's the lookup exact functions, some of the uses, some of the advantages, some of the benefits, and some of the disadvantages and limitations. So if you found this video useful, please click like and share with others. Thank you.